And then there's this yellow pudding, right? It's straight yellow. And it's in a big serving tray, right? It's a buffet line type of thing. So I asked this lady next to me, I'm like, excuse me, can you tell me what this yellow pudding is? What is this? Right? And she goes, oh, this is tartar. Do you know what tartar is? Tartar sauce. Do you know tartar? Have you ever had mayonnaise and relish? Tartar. And I'm like, I just spoke to you.
In English.
In English.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. If you are a first-time listener, this is also known as fucking Gookie Monsters. Which is
Gookie Monsters?
That was the original name. It was the original name of the podcast.
Really? Yeah. I need some soup. What?
I know. It was gonna be called Gookie Monsters. And then it was supposed to be the Cookie Monster with 2 fortune cookies in his hands. Oh, no. With the Chinese hat. with podcast earbuds or headphones on.
You had a spectrum of ideas.
Yeah.
The absolute worst one.
Yeah.
And somewhere right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right?
It was going to be called Gookie Monsters. And then people advised me not to.
Milk, 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 milk.
Yeah. And he just breaks the cracker. And it's just a fortune cookie inside.
Oh,
Confucius, hey. But yeah, people advised me not to do that. Number one, they said that it was a little too kind of corner the market on just Asian stuff.
Right.
Because you talk about everything.
Right.
And they also said it was borderline offensive.
Also, you were just coming off the set of Gook.
Yeah.
Gook, by the way, saying that's the movie you were in. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, did I ever tell you? So years ago, we did Kim Jong Illah together, right?
Yes.
So if you guys don't know, I did this character Kim Jong Illah, and then there was this video that I did, which kind of evolved the style of what the Kim Jong Illah videos were, because I just shot it by myself,
Yeah.
and I just set up a tripod and I just said bullshit, and so it was that the first time I ever met you was in Seattle.
Yeah, we shot the Kim Jong Illah in Seattle skit. That was a dope ass time. Dude.
Exactly, and
I think the first time we met, and then we clicked instantly.
And we went to Tiggs and we got drunk together after.
Even in the editing process, I was like, look, in the script, this and that, but if we switched it this way, and then you were totally on board, I was like, this guy fucking gets it.
I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so many people are so anal about how they write something, even in like YouTube skits. They're like, no, it's like this, this. And they'll ruin a fucking joke because it's what they say.
Yeah.
And like, fuck.
I'm not too particular about that. It's more like, especially like in the creative process or just anything that you'll do, you're never going to be 100% right.
Right.
It's impossible, right? Some things is taste and preference, and other times it's just better.
You just need other people's ideas sometimes so you can take the credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm fucking around. No, literally, David has never done that. Yeah. I'm just alluding to the other people I've worked with.
Yeah.
So.
It's pretty cool because like now it's just like, yeah, when we work together, like sometimes I don't understand structure very well, because I'm more of a joke guy. Yeah. So sometimes I think too much about the joke where I'm not thinking about the structure and how things make sense on camera, which is, I just don't know that type of stuff.
So as an editor, I see foresight. I see how it's going to be edited as we're shooting. And I'm like, we need to fill this spot, or we got to say something here to transition it or whatever. Like, that's the kinds of things I see. I think that's why we work so well together.
Yeah, yeah. And it's always more fun and collaborative that way too. Yeah. Like if you're so just like staunch on one idea or one concept, number one, most likely it's not going to turn out that well. Yeah. Like even like Gook, when we shot Gook, the structure of that film completely flipped from what the script was to what the editing was. Right. And that's because of the editing team. Like, this doesn't make sense. Yeah. When we saw the first edit, it was the film was actually chronological. Right. And it was very flat. But when we started flipping things around, different locations, and it was way more exciting. Yeah. It just edited a lot better that way. So, you just can't be married to all these fucking ideas. What the fuck was I going to say earlier?
Gookie Monster?
It was Gookie Monsters. And then, so speaking of like really offensive ideas. So with the Kim Jong Illah character years ago, a lot of networks were really interested in making Kim Jong Illah an actual series.
Oh, wow.
It was really popular at the time. So I had the misfortune of having this being shopped around and wanting to be picked up during the time that North Korea they were hacking people's files.
Oh shit! This whole Sony hack.
Yes, the whole
right,
Sony
with the interview.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a specific network out there that wanted to pick it up, and literally they were like, "This is hilarious. This is crazy. We want to do this." And then the Sony network thing happened. And they fucking iced it.
All right.
They're like, "Nope, we're not going to take a risk on this because if they did that to Sony, they'll fucking do it to us."
Shit.
But the funny thing is like when you go into a room and you're pitching these ideas, a lot of the stuff that you do will get watered down, i.e. something like Fresh Off the Boat, right? Fresh Off the Boat was probably something a lot more true to its nature.
Oh, yeah, because Eddie Huang's father was a gangster.
Yeah.
And Randall Park is not.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that. Well, for when you're in these writing rooms, or what I was told is like, listen, balls to the wall, shoot whatever idea that you want and let them water it down.
Yeah.
So I remember, and this is like one of these Patrice O'Neill moments where he says like half the room when you do this, when you do comedy, should be dying laughing and the other one should be mortified. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So I pitched this. So the idea of Kim Jong Illah as a character is Kim Jong Illah in and of itself, he's not really a bad guy. He's just a guy that's fucking ignorant.
Yeah.
He is told that everything he does and everything he touches is gold. So his perception of himself is a lot more heightened than his actual reality.
Yes.
And so that's why you see in Kim Jong Illah, that's why he's number one everything. He's the number one husband. And you find out he's not the number one husband.
Yeah.
Right? Number one singer. He's not the number one singer, but he doesn't know any better.
Right.
So in this series, it was supposed to be a half reality. It was supposed to be like a reality TV show.
Like The Office, like a mockumentary.
Like a mockumentary, but more like Borat.
Borat, okay. Yeah.
It was supposed to be like Borat with trained actors.
And then you go out and interact with the real world though in these situations.
Exactly.
Right.
So the first episode, and this is the one that I pitched, and this was my favorite fucking episode. And I remember when I was pitching this idea, the writers that they were lining up for me, they were crying laughing. They were cracking the fuck up. They're like, dude, this is what I want to write for. Yeah. Right. But some of the execs were like, what the fuck is this? Is crazy. So the first episode idea, I remember I was pitching it to this guy and I really liked this guy because he understood where I was coming from and he was bouncing off ideas off of me and it was getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
And so the first episode was supposed to be Kim Jong Illah, number one self-defense teacher for women. Right? And so
first you take away their rights.
Yeah. So dude, so the first episode, he is a self-defense teacher for sex offenders. So it's not
when someone's coming to kick their ass.
So it's to protect sex offenders against women who have had self-defense training.
And you're telling me this didn't pass? There's no green light?
The first episode, it's him. And so this is like a Borat thing. So it's half trained actors, half not.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you're in. I gotta find the script somewhere. I don't know where the fuck it is. But the first episode, he's a self-defense teacher for sex offenders. And there's a bunch of women who think this is for women. And so they're walking in, but they see half the room are a bunch of creepy guys. And they're all actors.
Okay.
Right. But some of the women are actors as well, too.
Yeah.
And so, like the first thing like Kim Jong Un said is that today we are going to teach you how to depends, right? Yeah. And then I have a fucking anti-rape kit, and then the let's not say the word rape. Let's say anti-self-defense kit, right? Apologies. And inside there was pliers, a small bottle of milk, right? The pliers were to break the rape whistle, to smash it. And the small bottle of milk was for pepper spray for your eyes.
Yeah, okay, I see why it wasn't greenlit, but yeah.
So here's the thing though, and I want people to listen to this thoroughly. The idea of this is that we're not celebrating this guy.
No.
He is a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And he's clearly in the wrong. Nobody agrees with him, right? So the people who aren't actors and actresses, they're going to freak out. They're like, what the fuck is this about? Right? And so like you'll see, and I'm setting up the scenario. I get one of the male actors and then one of the female actresses, right? And then she's supposed to defend against his attacks. And he takes the rape whistle, crushes it, right? She sprays him in the eye and he puts the milk in his eye. And they go, number one defense is always extra offense, right? And then he just fucking tackles her, right? And then we end that scenario. And in the back, it was supposed to be this weird acronym. I forgot what it was, but it was a stupid fucking acronym, and it was just highly offensive. Okay. But in these episodes, because he doesn't understand how this world works, he thinks that he took a Gary Vee seminar about creating a business about stuff that people don't have. So creating things, inventions are creating stuff that people don't know that they need. Right. And that's what he said. So that's the Gary Vee seminar that he heard. And that's why he created this thing. Right. Okay. But he doesn't know about the social norms. Yeah. And so what happens is at the end of the class, the female actors beat the shit out of Kim Jong Illah. Right. And then he doesn't know what's happening. He's crying. And they explain to him like, listen, like these aren't good people. And he's like, but a Gary Vee told me. You have to build an invention is something you don't know what you need right now. Yeah. You know? And then, he starts to realize this is really terrible. And he goes around and he apologizes. And then he becomes a feminist and he starts, supporting women. Right. So there is a moral to the story. And it's just that he's not celebrated for this stuff. He's just it's like Borat. Yes. Borat is a fucking.
Right. So many people don't understand Borat like that, right? Because Borat is. Okay, what's the real guy? Sacha
Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron Cohen. He's actually a trained mime.
Oh, really?
Yes, he is a classically trained clown, legit clown, right?
That fucking makes sense.
So, what is the purpose of a clown? I think people have forgotten what a purpose of a clown is, right? Because they just look so scary and creepy. Yeah, they've just turned to horror movies. But in actuality, what a clown's job is that they're expert mimes at the same time, but they're dressed up in all that makeup and in ridiculous clothes, right? To show that they are jesters, they are goofs, right? But their job is to make you look dumber than them. So they play so dumb. The idea is that Sacha Baron Cohen in his Borat character, or any of his Ali G and Bruno and all those characters, and they're to pretty much if you watch it, it's so fucking genius psychological offensiveness. Yeah. Where he makes himself so dumb that someone else thinks he's obviously smarter than them, but to actually communicate with them, they have to dumb themselves down. Yeah. And so that's why these crazy important people like senators and celebrities, they fall for his traps because they don't know that he's playing this character. And that's why it's so genius, because he plays a clown where what he's really doing, even though he's an idiot as Borat, he's an idiot at all of his characters are idiots. They're dumb, but they're
not supposed to be celebrated.
Yes, the point is to show that neither are you, whoever he's interviewing, that whatever you think or believe in, politicians, all of that shit is to show that your shit is pretentious, it's fake, it doesn't really, it doesn't help anybody, and you're a fool. You're even dumber than I am right now as this weird immigrant. What he's doing is trying to live up to the American I guess values or all that, the American dream, but showing the flaws in it. That's why the Borat movies are so genius to me.
The first Borat, it's so insane to me. And the reason why it did so well is because nobody knew who Sacha Baron Cohen was. Right. So there was a huge challenge in shooting.
So many people fell for it from the first movie, right? But the second movie was so much harder because everyone
I heard it was fucking difficult because everybody knew who Borat was. Yeah. And I think over time, Borat, let's just say it's a cult classic now. Yeah. It is a fucking cult classic. And so it's hard not to know what Borat is. Yeah. Maybe in the next 50 years, somebody else can do it and then it'll have that same effect again. But as of right now, Sacha Baron Cohen is still very popular. He did Bruno. He did all these different iterations. So there was stuff that I could tell it was hard for them to shoot. They just couldn't get it done. Oh yeah. So they had to go into obscure America,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They filmed in the area, I always talk shit about the crazy shit I seen. In Borat 2, they filmed in the area I live in.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, that's why. So he dresses up as a hick yokel. And
that was it?
That was it in Washington. And those two guys in the cabin he was staying with, that was in Washington,
That's hilarious,
dude. So like as I was watching, I was like, holy fucking God. I'm so thankful he came to this area to expose these people for what they think and believe in. Like,
that's fucking insane.
Yeah. And if you watch Borat 2, it's kind of hard to watch. There's a lot of cringe moments, right?
Really hard to watch sometimes.
Really hard to watch. But it's like one of the sweetest movies you ever see too. The fucking character arc of his daughter.
Yeah.
It's so sweet while it's like, what the fuck is happening?
The first one was because people didn't know who he was. I was trying to watch it. There was moments I had to pause because I was getting goosebumps because it was like, oh, like this is so hard to watch.
So hard to watch. But which shows the fucking balls he has.
And he's not laughing.
Yeah.
My lovely brain farts, to continue to support this podcast, remember, this podcast is brought to you by IP Vanish. Did you know that browsing online uses incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? That's right. Without added security, you might as well give away all your private data to hackers, advertisers, your ISP, and other prying eyes. You dummies, what are you doing? You're out there browsing out there thinking that you're safe, but you're not. Everybody's snooping and duping on your stuff. You need to get a VPN, and you need to do it with IP Vanish. That's why I use IP Vanish VPN to make it easy to stay truly private and secure on the internet. You can use IP Vanish on unlimited devices without sacrificing on speed, your computers, tablet phones, even devices like your Fire Stick when you're streaming media. Whether I'm at home or in public, I don't go online anymore without using IP Vanish. So remember, my friends, go to ipvanish.com/brain and use promotional code BRAIN and claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/brain. How is he not fucking laughing?
Have you seen Who is America?
Dude, that was the series that he did, right?
Yes.
With the whole self-defense, the Iranians.
Yeah, that's so good.
Dude, when he was doing the whole dildo out the thing, bite it, I was like, this is not real.
And these people are really like going for it and doing this shit, right?
How does he do this?
That's the kind of mind games Sacha Baron Cohen can play. That's why he's fucking genius. How he can get people to stoop like their fucking intelligence lower to expose themselves. Because most people walk around with this, like at least some kind of awareness.
Yeah.
Where there's manners, right? But when you take away not take away, but let's say you build a full sense of a safe space.
Yeah.
It makes people expose themselves. And he's so good at doing
It's so true when you say that, where people kind of dumb themselves down because they believe the person's stupid, and they kind of lower, like, it's the same thing when somebody thinks that they can't speak English. Right? Like I've seen people come and talk to my parents, you know, and they're not trying to be rude, but you know, inherently it's just very weird.
Yeah.
Where they go like, okay, this is where you go. It's like, listen, if they don't speak English, whether you say it slow or fast, they're not going to understand. It doesn't matter how fast you say it or not. Right. So it's just, I would always look at that. I'm like, if somebody came up to me, right, and they started speaking Cantonese, right, and they go, oh, you know, they start going really fast. Well, that was very racist. But if they go really slow with it, I'm like, I still don't understand. It doesn't matter. I wonder why we do that.
I don't know. I think it's I gotta say sometimes it's part of like a superiority complex. Yeah. To be honest, like even so, when I was in Hawaii doing my missionary training on this base in Kona, we have like every breakfast, lunch, dinner, everybody eats together no matter what class. So it's a big university, but there's only one lunch line, right?
Yeah.
And that week they're serving shark. Right?
Oh shit.
Yeah. And you know me and seafood, I can't do that shit or whatever, right? So I'm just going through the line and I'm getting everything but the fish. And then there's this yellow pudding, right? It's straight yellow. And it's in a big serving tray, right? It's a buffet line type of thing, right? You go through the line, pick up your portion. And I'm like, what the fuck is this yellow pudding or whatever? So there's this white lady next to me. Obviously, we're all missionaries. We're all like doing missionary work. And so they're all super Christian. And so I asked this lady next to me, I'm like, excuse me, can you tell me what this yellow pudding is? What is this? Right? And she goes, oh, this is tartar. Do you know what tartar is? Tartar sauce. Do you know tartar? Have you ever had mayonnaise and relish? Tartar. And I'm like, I just spoke to you
in English.
In English. In a perfect thing. Maybe I have a weird LA kind of like accent or some shit, but like, what the fuck? I just asked you what this was. They were like, tar. But the thing is, bless her heart, she was trying to be super nice.
Yeah.
But she was talking to me like I was deaf.
Dude, I would have hammed it up, dude. I would have hammed it up so bad.
What?
Do you know what this is? What do you say? I would have been like this old Japanese man. Oh, I don't know.
Please spell it for me.
I know. Is it not the soy sauce or sushi?
Yeah. Like I was, what the fuck? But that's the thing. Like, I don't know what it is, but people think that when someone can't understand you, they gotta talk slower and louder. Like you're like handicapped.
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand the language. I'm not fucking deaf.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
I mean, my problem being like, I just spoke perfect fucking English to you.
You know what the funny thing is? It doesn't even matter if it's like that. It even works the other way around. So, you know, Z, our buddy Z, you've seen him on the podcast years ago, but Z is a musician friend of ours, but he's Chinese Swedish.
Yes.
So he speaks Swedish. So we're going to an IKEA and I'm with him. I go to the fucking IKEA. There's an old Swedish man up front. He clearly has a thick Swedish accent, right? And then Z's excited because he gets to speak Swedish. Dude, right? And he starts speaking to him in Swedish, and the guy just goes, "Okay, in here." Like he's English. I'm like, he's speaking Swedish to you. Speaks right.
You won't just speak. You won't return the favor.
And he's speaking back to him in this broken English that nobody understands. I'm like, what the fuck is that? I was like looking at Z. I was like, what is that? He goes, I don't fucking know.
I couldn't understand him in English.
I was like, I don't know what the fuck he's saying in English. Like,
shit, was he so Swedish? Funny. Maybe he was Finnish.
Yeah, I know. I think fucking Z speaks like Polish, Swedish, Cantonese, Mandarin, and English.
Damn, these weird little like not obscure, obviously like Cantonese and Mandarin are like the most popular languages.
But I guess like where he worked at, they spoke Polish, so he learned it. Right. So he speaks like 5 languages.
Shit, well, I wonder what he's thinking about what's going on out there, because that's Eastern Europe, basically.
Oh yeah,
right?
So we're gonna talk about that. It's weird. Like I kind of want to discuss this only because of just how fucking sad it is.
And it's the biggest news in the world. I mean, we're looking at this is gonna change all our lives. So, and it's not, and that's the pandemic's just about over.
I know. Isn't that the weird thing? It's like, what the fuck is happening?
And now we're facing World War III.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure too if people understand the gravity of the situation, of the state of the world right now. Aside from pandemic, right? So if you guys don't know what's happening right now, there's a literal war going on right now in Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to read it. The first thing I Googled, right? And as I'm seeing all this stuff, and look, I'm not worldly like most people are, so I don't know what the relationship status is between Ukraine and Russia. In all honesty, if I'm going to be 100% honest, I thought it was the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they both speak Russian.
Yeah, so I didn't know. Right.
So my understanding is that the Ukraine and many other states used to be part of Russia, the USSR, the Soviet Union. And in 91, right? 91? Yeah, the Soviet Union fell, right? The Berlin Wall came down, and everything communist within the European, areas kind of fell, right? And in turn, what happened was that all these little states that belonged to the Soviet Union basically fractioned off and became independent. They became their own countries. And so specifically, Ukraine was very heavy towards being a democratic country, right? And I don't mean that like Democrats and Republicans, like democratic meaning that they vote, for their leadership. And basically the normal first world style is a many democratically elected government, right?
Yeah, elected leadership.
And over the years, apparently there's been a lot of turmoil between Russia and the Ukraine. So in 2014, there was they ousted their president. So they had just elected this new president, and it turned out when he was elected, he started fucking acting like a puppet for the Russian government. He was like a puppet president. It turned out he was very pro-Putin, pro-Russia, and he started changing government policies to help favor Russian influence into the Ukraine. And because of that, the Ukrainian people fucking ousted him. And that's how much they felt about this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Being a puppet president. And once they did that in response, here's the thing. If it was real or not, then I don't know why this involves Russia.
Yeah.
But because they ousted the president, that's when Russia annexed Crimea. You know, you heard all about that. Crimea is this peninsula in the Ukraine. They just took it over, right? And now it became a Russian state, and it's basically occupied by Russia right now. And over a whole nother fucking fish, a barrel. And I don't know if that was the right.
I told you, we just make things up.
We just make shit up. The whole nother thing about that is that there was an American named Paul Manafort who was the campaign manager, leader, head of this puppet president's campaign, right? And basically, which means he was working with the Russian government to, you know, put in this puppet president into the Ukraine. This guy's name is Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort was fucking Trump's 2016 presidential campaign manager.
Oh.
That's why all this fucking Russiagate shit started happening, because that guy was actually still a Russian agent while he was managing Trump's campaign for presidency. And that's also why he actually went to jail for that. And that's why all that Robert Mueller, the whole Russia,
the Mueller report,
all that shit, they're saying it's a hoax. It's fucking real.
Oh, shit.
So many people keep saying it's a hoax. It's fucking real.
Wow.
Right? So that campaign manager of this Ukrainian puppet president was a campaign manager for Trump. And what's happening right now? Trump is advocating for Russia and Putin to this day still. And throughout his whole presidency, he was fucking sucking Putin's dick.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so that shit is real. Anyways, that's a side note. That's a whole nother thing. But that was the start of a really big conflict, like with like military conflict when they annexed Crimea, right? And basically what's happening through Putin is that he believes that Ukraine is still a state of Russia, that they are not an independent country. They have no sovereignty, that they belong to Russia. That is the whole deal with, apparently, with them invading, saying you're becoming Russia again. That's what's going on.
Oh, holy shit.
It's as if maybe in the Civil War, Texas became its own country, right? Because Texas basically acts like they are their own country, right? The Republic of Texas. And let's say today we're like, you know what? Fuck that shit. You're America. You speak our language. You look like us. You hold all these American values, all this shit. You know, you're American. And then the U.S. government with all its military surrounded Texas and invaded.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like that. That's what's happening. It was a former state of Russia. It gained its independence, and now Russia wants it back through force.
It's just so crazy because I was reading, it's a very frightening statement where Putin basically warned all allied countries.
Oh my God.
Like, listen, if you step in, this is going to be the worst thing you'll ever do in the history of the world.
Like nothing unseen, some words along that line.
Yeah.
Which is so much like even scarier when Trump said fire and fury against North Korea, right? Because, you know, Trump, we know he wasn't going to pull that fucking trigger, but Putin, he's a ex-KGB agent.
Yes.
He has literally killed people with his own hands for goddamn sure, you know? Like he is total authoritarian, like nemesis. What's going on right now?
He's straight up evil.
Yes.
Like he does not fucking care. And he was basically saying, I'm looking for the quote right now, but it kind of gave me like chills down my spine. Like the way it was translated, it was like, whoever tries to stand in our way to create threats for our country and people should know Russia's response will be immediate and lead you to consequences you have never encountered in your history.
Which basically, what have we not encountered in our history?
World War III.
Nuclear weapons.
Yep.
Yeah. World War III. It's like...
That is fucking frightening, dude.
Yeah. A guy like that who will actually pull the trigger is... Yeah, we should be on our toes about this.
And honestly, now I'm looking at stuff like, is there going to be assassinations or like attempts at people's like lives?
So the president has announced that there are Russian agents who have made it into the Ukrainian capital, Kiev.
Kiev.
Yeah. And that his life is in danger. He made a public announcement of that the Russian agents have already made their way in.
Holy
and
shit,
they're going to
dude.
try to assassinate him.
Man, I saw this video that actually, I was like tearing up before we started doing this podcast. It was literally a Ukrainian father.
Yeah.
And
I saw that at the train station.
Yeah, the train station.
Dude. It's fucking real.
Yeah. Like it's just the daughter and the mother, and the daughter's crying and he's like kissing his daughter, bawling his eyes out because he has to stay back and fight for Ukraine. But he has to send his family to safety.
Because Ukraine's under martial law right now. And they announced that men from 18 to 60 years old cannot leave their country.
Yeah.
60-year-old.
That's crazy.
And even like, I scroll through Reddit and there's always random feeds. And then there was a off my chest post. I don't know if you know that subreddit. It's just people when they confess like things. There are people writing about how scared they are. They're from Ukraine. They live in Ukraine. And they're saying, I have to join the army. I can't leave this country. Someone else was talking about how they try to leave with their family, but then the airport is being bombed. Like, this is some real fucking shit.
I wonder like how we're young too, but like, let's say a generation before us, right? Like young 20s, like 15, 16, 17-year-olds, even like young 20-year-olds. What did they think about this? Because they're growing up in a world where all this information is so accessible and they've heard about disaster after disaster. But for us, we're kind of in the middle between all this stuff, right?
The generation before 9/11.
Yeah.
Everyone else was born after 9/11, this younger generation than us, right?
Exactly.
We didn't see a fucking world threat like this since, right?
Which is, it's giving me those weirdly like, just that weird queasy feeling in my stomach, just like 9/11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when somebody like Putin basically threatens nuclear war, and then I see, like, I'm not knocking on these kids or whatnot, right? This is not what this conversation is about. It's just weird to see, like, hear this, and then you see, BTS TikTok dancing. I'm like, my lovely genius farts, let's continue to keep this podcast sponsored by supporting our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by The Lost Debate. Whenever you look for news, you may feel forced to choose between echo chambers and mainstream media and conspiracy-obsessed alternative media. Well, guess what? That's why you need to check out The Lost Debate. It's a podcast YouTube show for political eclectics who want to escape their media bubbles and engage in good faith with ideas from across the political spectrum, my friends. The Lost Debate is hosted by Ravi Gupta, Corey Bradford, and Ricky Schlott. So if you guys want to go ahead and check them out, you should. They cover the latest news, ideas, and trends that mainstream media constantly overlooks. And instead of being at each other's throats, they focus on bringing new perspectives to the table and constructive debates that sound less like crossfire and more like discussions between real people. Join the conversation. Check out The Lost Debate today. New episodes drop twice a week. Search for The Lost Debate on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
I thought you were going to say some fucking serious shit or whatever. But, I mean, it is serious though. Like, what's up with that? Why are you guys moving on with your lives, dude?
Yeah,
You're at risk.
Do you know what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, maybe it was like earlier in the day, right? Because earlier in the day, I did an Instagram story where I was upset I gained some weight.
Yeah.
And then after I got out that story, days when I was going on and I looked up my Apple News stuff started popping up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? And I'm seeing all these photos. I'm seeing these videos. Khalif actually stayed in Ukraine for 3 weeks.
Really?
I think he was doing a missionary work or something. He stayed with the family out there. And then he downloaded the WhatsApp app and he saw their contacts. So he just asked them what's going on. Are they okay? And they said they're fucking frightened to death. They have no idea what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
That is so fucking scary.
I mean, you're talking about the younger generation who's just in America, who's just living their lives, like continuing with their TikTok dances. But like, you got to think about it this way too, dude. I just said the martial law requires all Ukrainian men from 18 to 60 to stay, right? Can you imagine someone's turning 18 tomorrow? Some 17-year-old boy. He's going to turn 18 tomorrow and he can't leave the country. Like,
and
that's
he has
the
to
kind
learn
of
how to shoot a
shit.
fucking gun and fight.
Yeah. And the reason why it goes up to 60 is apparently, I read this on Reddit, like anyone who's 51 and older, has had mandatory military training by the former Soviet government.
Oh, so they're the ones who know how to use weapons.
They're more useful than a 20-year-old who comes in who has no idea what the fuck is going on.
Oh my God.
So that's the situation they're in. It's fucking scary.
It's weird because like when I listen to, like I follow Tim Kennedy, right? Former MMA, UFC fighter.
Right. Army Ranger.
Yeah.
Right.
Special forces.
That's fucking, he's a fucking badass. Yeah.
But he's very adamant in talking about like, and I know a lot of people who, you know, when you read online, they disagree about this statement about America being a shining beacon of justice. Right.
Yeah.
And for somebody who was an Army Ranger, he has seen a lot of like these different atrocities that happen, you know, in a different world.
Yeah.
Because the two perspectives behind this, and I'm not putting my 2 cents in anything right now. You guys decide for yourselves about what you think about this.
Yeah.
It's the idea of, yes, they are atrocities, but that's how those other people live. Where do we come in and tell them how not to live their lives? That's their problems. We have issues of our own.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody like Tim Kennedy who really loves America, and his identity of being an American, especially somebody who was a soldier who has fought for this country, says, no, there's evil in this world. And we as a country who have the means to protect other people in this world, we need to do it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard for somebody who's a civilian like me to sit back. And I can never say this. I can never say like, yeah, we should go out there, because I'm not the one going out there.
No.
I'm not the one shooting guns. I'm not the one risking my fucking life. I'm not the one leaving my family behind.
Yeah.
So like when we see these situations, and it really comes to dawn on me when people say, hey, thank these people out there who are fighting for your country. And this is what it is. Because we're not the ones who have to put our lives out there. There's kids right now in Ukraine from 18 to fucking 60.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Could you imagine? And anybody who's listening to this right now that's within this age gap, and that's us too, somebody who just was pitching a show about a guy named Kim Jong Illah, you know what I mean? Protecting sex offenders from women.
Yeah.
And now I have to learn how to defend myself and then protect this country and kill somebody.
Just do like your grandpa, dude, and just go find an island and hide in there, dude. Right?
Be just like my grandpa did.
Yeah,
on another
dude.
podcast, I got to update you about that whole thing. Because I went back and I was like, dude, you know so much about your family. I'm just going to ask my dad about this stuff. I found out so much more shit, dude. Like, I was like, oh, this is pretty fucking nuts,
right.
dude.
That's the thing with Korean parents not telling us about the history, even though it's crazy fucking interesting.
Yeah. Like, I didn't even know when I was a kid, my grandma and grandpa, I don't remember this too much, but when he said it, it kind of sparked something in my head. Whenever my grandma and grandpa would argue with each other in front of us, they would do it in Japanese.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Because they only grew up learning Japanese.
Yeah, so they would speak to each other in Japanese.
Right.
So we wouldn't understand what the fuck they were saying, but they would yell at each other in Japanese.
So I want to talk about this too. The oddity of the situation that's going on here. Not oddity. It's just kind of rare because, you know, we have seen war in our lifetime, and throughout history, when you see war, it's usually one foreign land against another foreign land. And it could be because of different religion, different ethno-religious things, or all these factors because of what they look like, right? This current situation, they are also speaking Russian. They look like Russians.
Yeah.
They were a former state of Russia. You know, this is why like Putin has this manifest destiny kind of idea, like, no, they are Russian, they are our people, we're gonna just take it back. That's the biggest thing. The other thing being like lies about them having weapons of mass destruction,
militarizing and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so that's what's so different, because that's what I'm starting to see about what's happening with this and what happened in the past. Now, the USA, our country, us Americans, we invaded Iraq twice. The first time was a legit altruistic reason because they were invading Kuwait in the 90s, in the early 90s, and George Bush Sr. went and stopped that shit, you know. Now, the second time we went was really weird. It was, what was the reasons why we were going in?
Weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction, and also that Al-Qaeda is in Iraq when they weren't. They were in Afghanistan, you know. And we look at it today, like why we went to Iraq in the first place. It was a whole lot of bullshit. And in the end, we took a lot of oil, billions.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars worth of oil, You know, if we didn't go to Iraq, our gas prices would be much, much, much more expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So I look back at those times, and I was a senior in high school when we first got into Iraq. And there was a big debate about anti-war sentiment and pro-war, right? And growing up where I grew up, you know, the middle of nowhere, very much red state, all this shit, like it was all pro-war. And anyone who was against the war were pussies, libtards, you know, like pacifists. Basically, the word was just bitches, pussies, all that shit. You know, chickens. And then I don't know if you've seen this, but there are massive protests in Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Yeah,
right.
Which is really
from Russian people.
Awesome to see.
Yeah. Now, I just see that as it's so much more different because I think they seem to see more of a link, like these are human beings, right? But in the American case, what were we told about Middle Easterners? Terrorists.
Yeah.
Right? Like all sorts of racist shit. It'll pack up and stack up with all the things that they said about Middle Easterners that make it look like us versus them. They're different than us. We dehumanize them to justify why we were in Iraq.
Yeah.
And this time around, you're looking at what Putin's doing, and they are essentially the same people. You know, it's almost close to like looking at North and South Korea. We're both Koreans.
Yeah.
You know, they're I'm not going to say they're both Russian because Ukrainians don't identify Russians, but they both speak the same language. They have a very long shared history.
And I'm pretty sure too, there are people right now who have family there that are in Russia.
In Russia, yeah. Russian, Ukrainian family.
And they're like, dude, my family's there.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of insane when I saw those protests, because I think a lot of the times too, when they see a leader makes a move, it's a representation of what everybody believes in the country.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
Not true at all.
Right?
Not true at all.
Like how government and how people move are sometimes two very separate things. And a lot of times, more than sometimes. Right. And when you see all these thousands of protesters coming out crying, like saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And you see them arresting them, taking them away, dragging them away. I think there was like, at the time when I was reading, it was like 1,400 something people were arrested that were protesting, you know.
I saw a video of a girl crying on like a TikTok story video or some shit. Like her mom was fucking shot in the head. They went to the grocery store and they came out trying to get away from their fucking tanks, and the tank was coming to run them over, so they ran away and they started shooting at them and they blew her mom's head off.
That's insane, dude.
Regular girl like you and I, you know, and she had to go out and say it on the internet.
That regular girl like me and you, dude. Yeah.
You know, we can go to the women's restroom and all that shit.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it's like, yeah, these are all people. I mean, the other spectrum of that, I'm also seeing the argument, because I brought up USA and Iraq situation.
Yeah.
There was so much more sympathy for these Ukrainians than the US had for fucking Iraqis. They're humans too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to straight up say it. There is a racial barrier. I think it was because it was happening to brown people. A lot of people didn't give a fuck. But when you start seeing Eastern European type of people and because it's such a modern first world country, you say this shouldn't happen, but it's okay to happen in Vietnam. It's okay to happen in Iraq. It's okay to happen in these other countries with dark-skinned people.
Yeah.
You know, like, not saying that we shouldn't keep on fighting to say that this is wrong, but I do wish we had that same energy for those people, you know, dying in all these other countries. That's one of the biggest reasons why I went to Iraq, because I was against. I mean, here's the honest truth. I was for the war in high school because of all the influence around me, because I was saying the Bible justifies war and all that shit. And then when I became a real Christian and read the Bible and all this shit, it's like, wait a second, Jesus doesn't want this shit to happen.
Yeah.
And so I go out to be a missionary, you know, and all these other missionary kids in training are telling me that what's happening in Iraq is justified. And I'm telling them, dude, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of civilians, not soldiers, are being murdered, have died to this day. And we've only been there at that point for like 6 years.
Yeah.
And they're telling me, yeah, well, you know, this this book, this verse says that war is justified and all this shit. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I went to Iraq in the middle of a war. Because I wanted to be that representative, American representative that comes in and I'm not trying to kill them.
Yeah.
And that was the impact I had on these people when I was in Arbil in northern Iraq.
I mean, it's so easy nowadays to look at people as memes and blurbs.
Yes.
Right? And just headlines and news. Here, actually, this is a very interesting story. So when I went to Pittsburgh, one of the things that there's not much to do in Pittsburgh. When you go to a town like that, or even like smaller towns or even cities like that, people tend to talk more. They like talking to you.
Yeah.
They like talking on the plane. They like to spark up a conversation with the person next to them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people aren't used to that. But, I think whether it's because we did missionary trips or whatever, or we kind of grew up in a generation that was half in between, where somebody wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them. It's not a nuisance.
Yeah.
I actually welcome it. It's great to talk. I was talking to a guy about, it was just a bunch of different subjects, right? And then I think that sometimes when we listen to the news and we hear about these opposing ideas and views that we have, we think that the people who are on the opposite side of us are assholes. They're not there to listen to reason, and they can't have civil discourse. Because it seems like that when you read Facebook conversations and arguments, right? So when I was on this plane, I was talking to this guy, very, very fucking nice guy. And the topic of COVID came up and he brought it up, right? And he was like, these fucking masks or whatever, right? This shit is just the flu, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. And I don't get mad about stuff like that because number one, he wasn't angry at me.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying anything.
He was just stating his opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, why do you think it's the flu? He's like, listen, I looked at the percentage of people who are dying. Not a lot of us out there. And I was like, well, it's not the flu though, right? Like, I was like, I had COVID and it was pretty devastating for me. And like, KN95 masks clearly work. It's been proven that it does.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think it's really the flu. Like, I've had it and we know people who have died from it too. And I don't know anybody who's died from the flu, even though there are people who have, right?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. He goes, I was like, you're what we call a true believer. I was like, what's a true believer? I was like, you're scared of COVID. And I was like, I'm not scared of it, right? But I'm Asian, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, me wearing a mask, it doesn't bother me because,
oh yeah, it's so normal.
I was like, for me, I was like, I'm not sure if you know this, right? And he travels a lot because he's in oil mining. So he goes from project to project all over the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like, I mean, I'm not sure if you know a lot about Asian, but we wear masks all the time because it's not so much about like, I understand like when pandemic first came out, people thought like, oh, you think I'm disgusting or gross. It's not about that. It's if I'm sick, I don't want to get you sick.
It's a common courtesy.
It's just a common courtesy thing. He goes, okay, I could see that. There was no argument from this guy. It's not how everybody paints a human being to be. That's on the opposite. He just we were just talking and having a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where we disagreed on something, but we just still continued to talk.
Yeah. It's not like he stopped talking to you on his
exactly. He didn't call me dumb. He didn't call me stupid. He was just like, I disagree. And then we just continued talking for the next hour.
So many people on your quote unquote team, quote unquote, is, to start immediately calling that person an idiot.
Or a murderer or something.
Murderer straight up.
He was wearing his mask. Everything was fine. And then we started talking a little bit more. And then it was a really cool moment too, where he was talking about, hey, like, and then he started talking about racism, right? Because he was a large white male.
Yeah.
He goes like, I don't think people in America understand what racism really looks like, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, I've been all around the world. I travel constantly, right? He goes, when I'm in South Africa, he goes, people are racist towards me. And I was like, yeah, I don't think racism is akin to just one type of color.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're prejudiced against somebody because of a specific, whether it's color of the skin, you're racist, right? Or whatever. And he goes, well, like if I go there, they have an equivalent to the N-word for white people over there. Mm-hmm. He goes, so I get racially persecuted. And I was like, okay. I was like, you understand why though, right? He goes, well, because they don't like white people. I was like, have you heard of apartheid? And he was like, what's that?
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was like, well, if you want to talk about racial discrimination, I'm talking about people know stories about and this is not that very long ago, that somebody who looked like you would see, let's say a black and a white person together and they would stone them.
Yeah.
That is why sometimes your skin color brings up a lot of rage and anger because people who look like you beat, persecuted, and fucking murdered them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come from nowhere. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's why in South Africa, when they see you, and he was telling me the story about how what he did wasn't wrong, right? So somebody in his mill or mine or whatever was doing something very dangerously. And this person was South African. It was an African person.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, don't do it like that. You have to do it like this or you're going to hurt yourself. And then one of the workers got into his face and started fucking cursing him out. Say, you don't fucking talk to blah, 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 in broken English or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm just doing my job, right? I'm not justifying what that person did, but what he saw, because he doesn't understand your language, is a white man talking down to this young black man, which is something that he experienced his whole life.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, that's kind of where that's coming from, and he goes like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. The problem stems from a lot of white people who are colorblind. That bullshit.
Yeah.
To act like, oh, everybody's the same color. But when you do that, what are you really doing in your head? Oh, just pretend this person's white.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? But then that's not how society still works.
You want to hear the kicker though?
What's
so
up?
We were talking about the stuff, and then we agreed on some other things here and there too. And then we're talking about, and then he was talking about his kid. I was like, hey, you want to see my kid? Cool, fucking kid, black. Bro, that shit blew my fucking mind.
Yeah,
he was half black. I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
So yeah, he's definitely not racist.
Yeah,
like, his wife is black.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But he obviously has blind spots going.
Yeah, there's blind spots too. I mean, there's like stuff that he doesn't really see. I think he wants to really see the world. In my personal opinion, when I met this guy, he wants to see people for what they are, right?
Yes.
And that's how he judges people.
Yeah.
But he's also forgetting that in this country there is a history with the color of your skin and race that people are not easily forgetting, because there are issues that still arise because the color of your skin. Just because you don't want to acknowledge it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that people will forget it just because you did.
Right.
And so that's the thing that he's kind of forgetting.
Yeah. That's the problem with, quote, colorblind people.
Yeah.
Is that they're pretending, even if they don't know it, that this person has the same history as you, has had the same opportunities as you. You're assuming that this person has gone through zero bullshit, like racial bullshit, like you have.
Yeah.
Right. But I can tell he has great intentions, right? And trying to judge people by their character, which we try to do a lot,
which is great
as well, right? But then you have to acknowledge the differences in people's color, right? You have to acknowledge the differences in people's cultures, and you have to acknowledge that what makes us different and diverse is what makes our society beautiful.
Yeah.
But if you try to make the world a psychological homogenous country through your own mind by pretending, that's never going to work out.
Yeah. And I think for me, when I had that conversation, and just to wrap it back to you, it's like, when you went over to Iraq, it opened up your mind because you had conversations with people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that a lot of people are fucking, not even just forgetting, you're scared.
Yeah.
You are so scared to talk to people because you're afraid that they're going to say something that's going to oppose the way that you think, and you have nothing to say back.
Right.
And yeah, you know
because
what?
You don't have your cue cards on
exactly.
you to say all those talking points.
You don't have Google.
Right.
You don't have time to sit there, read over this comment multiple times over, and try to write back the perfect comment back.
Right. The perfect rebuttal.
Exactly. With stuff that probably you don't even believe in, but you just want to be right. When somebody is sitting across from you, or sitting next to you on a plane here and there, all you have is your conversation in the moment. Yeah. Right. And there are probably more things that I could have said when we were going back and forth. And when I say back and forth, this was a very pleasant conversation. Right. Like I said, we disagreed on probably 30% things, and the other 70% we agreed on. But he didn't go around calling me stupid. He didn't feel like we shook hands and say, hey, this was a great conversation. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah.
And I had another conversation just like this with somebody in my Uber. And it was so refreshing because I had to remind myself that this isn't the fucking internet, dude.
Yeah.
There's real people out here who want to talk to you. And even if they don't agree. And this guy was like, hey, you know what, brother? I agree with most things you're saying. There's a few things I disagree, but man, it was great talking to you, man. Right. And he appreciated the conversation. And I loved it, dude.
Right. I think that's why we're being so socially, what do you call it? I don't want to, what's the regressive?
Yeah.
Right. Because on social media, you can announce who you are and what you stand for on your profile. Right. And so people can easily read you if they want to follow you or not, or interact with you. Right. But in real life, right, people don't know that what you fly a banner of liberal or conservative over your head. They don't know what you stand for. You got to get to know this person, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are afraid to get to know people because of what they might find in that way. I might not like something.
Yeah.
Because if this person I knew was on the internet, I would immediately condemn them. And then they live their lives like that when they meet someone in real life.
Yeah.
Like I think people just cannot differentiate that this social media culture with the way we interact in real life. They can't like split themselves from that and not realize it's not real.
Yeah. And I was talking, so I've been selling a bunch of equipment on OfferUp, and I sold a lens, and I was talking to this lady where she was like, yeah, like she was asking what I do for a living. I was like, I do video stuff. He's like, well, I have a nephew who does Twitch, and he's like pretty popular on there. And, people, I don't know what popular on Twitch is. I don't know what the number is, but yeah, it's like, dude, he's super funny and his personality is really great. Like I watched some of his Twitch stuff, and he has all these opinions about everything. He's super passionate, but you talk to him in person, not a single peep.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? Like, he was like, he doesn't talk in person at all. But when I see him on that camera, he says all these ideas. They're pretty out there, but they're funny. And then, he has opinions, but you see him when he's at a family party.
Right.
I seen him with his friends. He doesn't say anything at all. But I'm like, oh, I was like, and I told him, I was like, you know why that is because there's no consequence when you talk to a lens.
Right.
There's nobody saying back and trying to refute what you're saying.
Yeah.
You don't have to stand your ground. Right. And a lot of people cannot do that. And you see this a lot with like political debates, which I think are really stupid when somebody like anybody, I don't know, there's that Steven guy, and then there's, Ben Shapiro.
Right. Louder with Crowder.
That guy, you know what I mean? And, he's trying to pick on these like 18-year-olds, right. On subjects that he has like papers and books and he's ready to argue. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point of this shit? You know what I mean? Like, why even do this? Like, but these kids, and I'll be probably not their fault. These kids who feel like they have their points ready, they just come up and they start blabbering emotions.
Right.
Somebody who's talking facts or what they believe are facts or stats.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work that way because you're too used to being prepared, having Google next to you to go ahead and prepare this conversation.
Right.
When you're face to face with somebody, is completely different. And you will find out things that you either like or don't like about yourself. And you have the ability to say like, oh shit, maybe I was wrong here, or I can see where you're coming from, and then still be able to stand your point.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that too. I've had conversations with many people where I was like, shit, maybe I'm wrong about this stuff.
Yeah.
I
think a lot of people have a problem with finding out that they're wrong. They don't want to face, because they feel embarrassment and shame. And that's all still perspective. If you are a learning person, and you would understand that there's no shame in changing your mind.
Yeah.
There's no shame in learning and growing. There's no shame in refuting yourself.
Yeah.
Your past self.
And I say this too, I hope you weren't offended by the Kim Jong Illah thing, dude. I'm just telling you a story about something that I pitched years ago. And once again, Kim Jong Illah is an asshole. He's disgusting. He's deplorable. And in the end, he gets his ass fucking whooped. All right. And he learns how wrong he is, and he actually becomes a feminist.
Right. So that also leads into the other thing we were going to talk about, a great TV show that's on.
Yes.
Right now. Peacemaker.
Shout out to John Cena and his amazing tweets.
So here's how we can transition. John Cena tweeted that he wished he had the actual powers of Peacemaker so he can go into the Russia-Ukrainian conflict and do something about it. Hashtag Peacemaker HBO Max.
Love it.
He went there promoting his TV show. Now here's the thing. Bad timing. But great fucking TV show.
Peacemakers is so interesting, right? Like, we could talk about, I actually didn't get to watch the whole thing because I've been moving a lot, but just in general, from what I have watched, it's very few and far between nowadays, even with something like Loki, right?
Yeah.
Loki, it took me a while to warm up, but I could see how great it was going to be.
Yeah.
Peacemakers, first scene, love it.
Right.
I was like, I love this. I don't know what the fuck this is. I fucking love it.
the initial conversation at the hospital.
The fun
with the janitor.
I was literally cackling, laughing.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, why the fuck is John Cena so good?
Dude, James Gunn's writing, bro. He's just great at this fucking dialogue.
Yeah.
Shit, dude.
And the thing about James Gunn too, sometimes I feel like his stuff is a little over the top. Peacemakers didn't feel this way.
Yeah. It was meant for somebody like him. This character, what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people and how it opens is that people see him as actually a villain. They think he's a super villain, but in Peacemaker's mind, he's like, no, I'm a superhero. Mm-hmm. Why are you calling me a villain? All these things.
Like, his arguments are so funny.
Yeah, you kill black people at a higher rate.
Yeah. He goes, fine. The next time I'm out there, I'm gonna kill more white people. How about that? Deal? He goes, fine. I like that. It's good.
But it's really great how they get into the nuance of that argument. Is that he's like, I just go where the crime goes, right? And in his mind, subconsciously, he's not realizing that he's just attacking black people.
Yeah.
Right. And so the show like opens up the layers of Peacemaker of who he really is and where he comes from, right? First, what episode are you at right now?
I'm on the 4th episode.
4th episode? Oh my gosh, then I can't keep going further. This has to be a spoiler-less review of like halfway point, we'll say, because there's only 8 episodes.
Okay, so I'm at the halfway point. We'll talk up to the point, and then on the next one, we'll go even further once I finish it.
Yeah. So like what we're going with it is that his father, right? What do you know about his father so far? Peacemaker's father.
Just about their relationship, but I don't know too much. I have to rewatch everything because I'm watching it as I'm moving.
Right.
Yeah.
So like Peacemaker's father is like a racist.
Yes.
He's like a piece of shit, right?
Yeah. Especially like the way he treats him.
Yeah. Right. I'm watching this, right? And I mentioned it earlier about Borat filming his piece by the area I grew up in. This show is based in the same area that I grew up in Washington.
That's so fucking crazy.
Everyone has Washington plates, right? But they call
makes sense.
Yeah. They call it Evergreen, Washington, which is like, a fake city, kind of like Metropolis is supposed to be like New York City or some shit. But yeah, like they go through it and they really capture, I don't know how I'm going to say this, but the situation that white Americans are in, white American men are in this day and age. Right? Because everything a lot of white Americans have been told is like a lot of entitlement shit.
Yeah.
Owed. And if they work hard and put their head down, then they'll get this shit. Well, they do work hard, but they're not seeing any of the benefits. Now, they're getting a lot of external factors telling them that these are immigrant faults, that these are whatever, this person, that person, this is the Democrats' fault or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're also seeing it deeper than that in his relationship with his father. Because even you and I want to get to know our father more than we know.
Yeah.
Right? There's a thing about men, like when I want to hear a news story about my dad from a long relative or whatever, my ears are open.
Yeah.
I need to know. I want to know. Right? Because a lot of fathers in many cultures don't say much.
Yeah, they don't really talk about themselves. We always hear stories about them through somebody else.
Right.
It's like, oh, did you know your dad? Well, this guy beat up 7 people at a bar once to save a lady. I'm like, that's cool. Never told me once.
Whenever I meet my dad's old friends, they cannot stop talking about how he was a pool shark and how he was so good at tanggujang. He was just taking everybody's money. He never taught me, never told me about it. Yeah.
That's like my grandpa too. It's like my grandpa was really, he was like an expert fisherman.
Yeah.
Never taught me how to fish. And in fact, he thought I was fucking annoying. He would never let him come with him.
Yeah. Right. So in this case, it follows this American idea of this man trying to become a man, but what he knows about becoming a man is a really bad example. He's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so his character in itself says very shitty things to other people. He's a fucking asshole.
Dude,
Peacemaker.
That interaction that he had with, I think this is in the first episode too, with the neighbor.
Right.
Just fucking calling him an old fuck, telling him to go down. It's like, holy shit, this guy is his character is so complex. He inherently thinks that everything he does is for the greater good.
Right. Did you see the Suicide Squad? The new one, James Gunn directed the reboot.
It's supposed to continue into this,
continue
right?
from that.
I never got to see it.
You gotta go back and watch the Suicide Squad, and then continue with the Peacemaker. But you don't really have to. It's written well enough that you can just follow.
It starts where that movie ends, right?
Yes, yeah. And so, like, what I see a lot is like when I see Peacemaker, I see a fucking customer at my store.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this guy who thinks he's the shit, but really, this society really doesn't think shit about him. And so he has this angst. And that character is represented in the blonde lady.
Oh,
yeah, I forgot her name.
I'm blanking the fuck out. We'll come back to it. Yeah.
But she gives him shit all the time, right? She represents the rest of America. That even white women find this guy fucking despicable and deplorable, And all the other characters, in a way, like they represent what you see in this person and your first interactions of this guy. He's just obnoxious, slightly very sexist, and just completely unaware of who he is. Really. Yeah. And as the show progresses, James Gunn writes so well with teamwork and team interaction that helps his character arc, But even in the middle, you must have seen it too, where he gets back to his trailer home and he just starts bawling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what's he say? Like, everybody fucking hates me. You're such a fucking idiot or whatever. And
he's Jake Paul.
Yeah. He's revealing like these true emotions of the truth of what's around him, but what he's actually ignoring.
Yeah.
Which is so amazing to look at a superhero TV show. Like, what the fuck? Look at this depth of character that you're watching. Yeah. Like, everything else around it, you'll keep watching it. It's so fucking nuts.
When he had that breakdown moment when he was crying, it kind of reminded me, it really did remind me of social media people, right? They have this like, and I'm pretty sure this wasn't the thing, but I when you watch something, you could take away things that attach it to your own personal life. But it's like a lot of these social media people, they go, I don't give a fuck about what anybody says about me. I just do what I do.
Yeah.
But then I know these people and it eats them up.
Oh, they care a lot.
They care so much. And listen, I care a little bit too, but substantially a lot less than everybody else.
Because we can read what's not true and be like, that's not true. And you can laugh at it.
Exactly. Right? I'm like, this is completely false.
But there are sometimes some comments, I'll be honest, I speak for myself.
Yeah.
I'll see, I'm like, maybe I should look that over about myself.
Dude, I read this comment that fucking irritated the fuck out of me that day, only because it was so stupid. They're like, the comment basically said that, it's like, yeah, I really want to like David, but he's so fucking fake. And I'm like, what? Right? And it's like all these stories about him getting bullied and him beating up people. And I'm like, wait, which is it? I'm like, am I getting bullied or am I beating up people? Because I'm pretty sure the stories I'm stating, I'm getting my ass kicked a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because, like, when somebody says, this is the funny thing, when somebody tells a story, it's like, yeah, I used to get in fights. I never said I won them.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about the fight, but you don't end it.
Yeah. I never said I won these fights. Yeah. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. These are stories about me getting bullied.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then literally I wrote to him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, clearly you don't listen to this podcast. But I was like, if you want to see, and they're like, oh, David, kickboxing is a joke. I was like, cool. Well, anytime you want, you meet me at a fucking gym, we'll glove up and I'll fuck you up.
You're right.
Wherever you want. Listen, I'm not saying I'm an amazing boxer or kickboxer, but I'll tell you this right now. If you step into a gym and you have never fucking trained, or even if you train a year or two, I will fucking piece you up. I'm not saying I'm great at this stuff, but I love this sport.
Yeah.
You will find out really fucking soon.
But what I found was the core of these type of comments that are coming are people who hate to see somebody like you have the confidence that you do.
No, you know what?
The success that you do have for yourself.
Because I really feel like this person who's writing this comment looks exactly like me. Yeah. They're like, this is like, impossible.
If I can't do it, you can't either.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, you're fatter than me.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's like, listen. And it's so funny too. I could have so many people come on this podcast, corroborate these stories. You've been around for half these fucking stories, and it's still not true. It's like, I don't know what else to do now at this point. It's like, if you want me to live your sorry existence so you can feel better about your life, it's never going to happen. You're going to live in that pity and sorrow every day. So guess what? Go out there and get bullied just like me.
Yeah.
Get out there and get punked and bullied. But going back to that, like, I see that guy as, these social media people.
Yeah.
Like when I saw him, I felt bad for him.
Right. Like if he's off the phone, like he was away from all these people he was around, where he can put on this character in front of them and portray who he is to them. But when he's alone and by himself, when these people don't have their phones in front of them, what are they doing by themselves?
Yeah.
What are they thinking? What do they actually think about themselves? I always think about it with the haters, pretty much like when they say shit to me or you or anybody else, when I see hate comments, I only see people talking to themselves in a mirror.
Dude, one of the funniest comments I ever read too was like, I told the story years ago about, it was like this thing I put in a script about this dude. It was a Korean guy who tried to kill himself because he couldn't do anything right.
Yeah.
But I laughed at his face because it's true, because he tried to kill himself and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, and then this person wrote, they're like, you fucking asshole joking about suicide. Why don't you kill yourself? I was like, wait.
Wait, what?
I was like, hold on a second. What are you saying, dude?
So you comment.
Yeah, so
I couldn't do it.
I was like, what?
You're right. You were right.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is this guy saying? But doing that peacemaker moment, if you've ever seen this clip, it's this moment of I was about to say Jake Paul.
You're right.
Jake Paul and his brother Logan, and Jake Paul's bawling. He's actually crying on the podcast. He goes, I don't understand. It's just really fucking hard, man, because all these people they're like, we want you to lose. You're such an asshole. You're a fucking dick. I don't know where they're coming from. Like, why do they want me to fail so much? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the persona you put on.
Yeah.
like,
dude. Are you serious right now? Don't you act like that to sell tickets?
Yeah, I was
because
like,
people buy your tickets because they want to see you lose. Don't you know that?
But that's the funny thing. When I was watching that, I was like, oh, he's not like some kind of sadistic genius.
He's stupid.
I thought he was like some marketing genius. I was like, oh, this kid's just dumb. He's delusional.
Yeah, he really thinks like the world is for him and there are all these haters. It's like, no. Everyone who buys your pay-per-view want to see you get knocked the fuck out.
He's bawling, crying because he doesn't understand why people hate him so much. And I'm like, oh, well, he's an idiot.
Right.
He's not as smart as I thought he was.
So peacemaker when you get that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Peacemaker is Jake Paul.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucking crazy. I was like, holy shit. This is a very weird moment. When I saw that clip, I was like, that's fucking Peacemaker.
Yeah. So like we'll have a part 2 on Peacemaker since you saw the first 4.
Yeah.
But the next 4, I really want to talk about how Peacemaker is the better Shang-Chi.
Let's go, baby.
Peacemaker did what Shang-Chi tried to do, and it did it excellently.
Oh, man, dude.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it.
I'm definitely not getting a role on Shang-Chi too.
Yeah. But we look for every opportunity, man.
Yeah. Well, guys, this wraps up this episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. Hope you learned something new. Hope you walked away with something. You can find Ed at Ed Park VP. People are asking about your podcast and when you're going to upload a damn episode.
Hey, man, I'm going through some shit and I'm not in the mood. But yeah, I feel the pressure, so I'll continue. I mean, it's called Bible Study at Momo, and you can find the links through my Instagram. There's 3 episodes I recorded last year this time.
Okay.
But I do have another episode ready. I'm just not sure how I want to do it. And I'll talk to you about it maybe if you want to get involved with it too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll figure that out. And then we'll get it going next time. You guys can catch Genius Brains every Sundays at 12 p.m. Remember, stay interactive. Give us a rating on iTunes and Spotify. Share the podcast with everybody. Thumbs up the video and talk to each other in comments because we're all about communication. Just keep it nice and peacemaker peaceful, baby.
That's right.
We'll see y'all next time.
Peace.
Peace.